Welcome back, everybody, to the Snap Count, episode 5, presented by FanDuel. I am Trai, Essex, your host, and I'm here with my main man, Mr. Charlie Batch. How you doing, CB?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Fantastic, man. We got some football finally happening. The official start of the college football season got on the way this past weekend. I don't know if you had a chance to see Iowa State versus Kansas State, a ranked matchup last week. It was a pretty good game, but that's not why the people are coming in to tune into the college football season. They coming for this Friday and this Saturday. They're coming to watch Northwestern versus UCLA on Friday, and of course, Eastern Michigan versus Texas State on Saturday. What say you, Mr. Batch, about your Eastern Michigan squad? What are we going to do this year?
Yeah, I think we're going to surprise a lot of people. We have a lot of new talent that we have there, and it starts on the road down in Texas. So this is going to be an exciting time for Eastern Michigan football.
Yeah, Northwestern. We got a nice new facility happening up there on Lake Michigan. I'm excited. I hope it translates to the football field as well. We have a nice. Is the Pac-12 still a conference? It's still officially a conference, right? It's not
Yeah,
quite the
somewhat,
Power
yes.
Five. So we got UCLA, one of the stalwarts of the Pac-12, coming to Evanston, Illinois. So I'm excited about that. But let's get the fans over to these Steel City headlines, brought to you by Fairway Chevrolet GMC. Whether you're in the market for a truck that's heavy duty, built for work, or a real head turner, Fairway Chevrolet GMC has you covered. With clear upfront pricing, unmatched inventory, and a team that works to earn your business, Fairway Chevrolet GMC is the place to go. Trucks, SUVs, great pricing, no nonsense. That's the fair way. All right, Charlie, we just wrapped up preseason with the Carolina Panthers, which seems like we're always either there or they're in Pittsburgh to wrap up the preseason. And they came away with the victory, preseason 3, but there were a lot of battles still left to be had. And I think the main one I think a lot of folks were looking at was that wide receiver battle. Did we get any separation in that room? Is there a clear-cut top 5 or top 6 guys that I think are going to go make the 53 this year?
Well, I think we have the top three for sure. And I think the way that Roman Wilson performed in this preseason game really was a step for him moving forward because they wanted to see him take the next step. I thought he did that watching it with the eyes view on it. So it was cool to see that. So I think you see with DK, Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin, you're going to have three there. The other person who I thought solidified their roster spot was Scotty Miller. So that
Mm-hmm.
now takes you at 4. Ben Skoranek, he's going to be more of a special teams guy in this rotation. He does play a little bit off of it, but I think those are your 5 at this particular point. Robert Woods, what does that look like for him? But I think a lot of it is a lot of decisions are going to come on how many people they keep at the tight end position. If they go at
Mm-hmm.
4, then you're going to see 5 in the wide receiver group. If they go, with 4 tight ends, then maybe maybe well, no, not 4, but if they
3.
go with 3 tight ends, you're going
Mm-hmm.
to see six receivers. If they go with 4, you're going to see 5 receivers. So I think that's ultimately how it's going to play out there.
So basically, you're saying if we keep Connor, then there's going to be a 6 wide receiver spot that we're not going to keep.
But I think
Basically,
it's more of the wild card because Connor actually could be slotted at the fullback position too, so he can be a hybrid between
okay.
fullback and tight end. So I think he does have that position flexibility there.
Do you think that the offense that Coach Smith, Omar, Tomlin, they're happy with the wide receiver crew, that they're not, I guess, scouring the waiver wire for a freshly released wide receiver coming up?
Yeah, again, a lot of it depends on who is released at the time.
Mhm.
Do I feel that they are happy with the number 2 wide receiver position right now? I think they're okay with it. But if there's another guy that can actually better this roster, of course they're going to entertain that conversation and then see where things take you at this particular point. So all I say is if you do make the initial 53, people are going to pay attention to what's happening around the league. And if this roster can get better, we've seen Omar, we've seen Omar Khan, and we've seen Mike Tomlin actually make moves that surprise people to get this roster better.
Right. And I think wide receiver group was one of those ones that a lot of guys had their eyes on. And I think this group's opened up a lot of eyes. I think they surprised a lot of folks. I think they performed really well. I don't remember anybody having any egregious drop problems or missed assignments. It seems like by and large that this group worked really hard. And despite the name recognition, I think we have who we think we need in order to fill that wide receiver 2 position between Roman and Calvin. and Scotty. Either one of those three, I think, could fill in that wide receiver 2 role.
And I think the one person who we haven't seen much, but who had a phenomenal training camp was Jonnu Smith. This guy can
Oh,
flat
yeah.
out ball. So now you have the options of using him as a receiver, along with that tight end set as well, because he's that flexible as it relates to what he's capable of doing. And the thing is, people haven't seen him this preseason, but man, he's someone to get excited about.
Oh yeah, I think they got a taste of it early on, but he's been kind of hampered with injuries. Thank God for these 17 days post preseason. These guys are going to get healthy. But on the other side of the ball, position group tasked with guarding these wide receivers, there was some talk about whether Beanie Bishop, one of the guys who broke out from the 2024 class, an undrafted free agent, and played a big role for this defense. Talks about him maybe being on a bubble with the play of Brandon Eccles really catching the eye of the coaches. Did he do enough in this last preseason game to make the 53?
I think he did, but again, a lot of it comes down to if you do potentially release Benny Bishop, um, will you look and say, can you get him on a practice squad?
Right.
Or will he entertain his services elsewhere? Those are the things you just don't know at this particular point. And all I can go back off of prior to the game, defensive coordinator Terrell Austin said this is a big game for Beanie Bishop, and we're
Yes.
expecting him to play, and then he didn't play. So we don't know what else was going on. All I know is Mike Tomlin said he was dealing with something. So we don't know what that something is. But all of that to say, when you now open up that door for somebody else to get those reps, that's where that guy could potentially shine. And I thought Brandon Eccles really did that to really make a case for why he belongs on his 53.
Right. And, Coach Tomlin puts a microscope on year 2 guys because he wants to see improvement. Because generally speaking, once you get that experience in the NFL after your rookie year, you're expected by the coaching staff to have a significant jump in your play in the second year. And I read a comment from Coach Tomlin that said that he saw that in Beanie Bishop. So it might not be a case where there was a drop in his play, but it seems like Brandon Eccles really just stood out and really picked up and really showed out that he is capable of playing that position at a high level.
And I think the one again, there's another gray area there because we don't know what position that Jalen Ramsey is going to line up in. If
Mhm.
you look in that last preseason game, he lined up at safety.
Right.
So if you're now putting him at safety and that frees up another corner position because of what he's capable of doing, doesn't mean they're going to keep him at the safety position. It's just the fact that that's a spot that they're going to take because typically you would keep 4 safeties, but again, because we know Miles Killebrew is going to make this squad. He, like Mike Tomlin talked about, he's the best in the world at what
Mhm.
he does. So his roster spot is secure. But again, it's just a matter of where they fit and what position that they're going to put Jalen Ramsey at. And now, what does that look like for everybody else?
Right. Yeah, some decisions to be made in that secondary. Obviously, another position group is O line. Obviously, I've had a pretty consistent eye on that O line, and I got to tell you what, Charlie, they play well as a group, as a unit this off season, this preseason. I thought Coach Meyer coached them up well. Young guys have improved tremendously. I thought Mason McCormick is a guy who was on the rise in his second year. A lot has been made about Zach Frazier. He was our most critical player last year, but he came into camp ready to go, and he's becoming more of a leader. The 2 tackles in Broderick Jones and Troy Fontano, a lot to be made going into this preseason. Not a lot of experience, but their preseason really showed up in a big way. I thought they entered the camp on a high note. The biggest thing to me is that there wasn't a lot of talk about them. And O lineman, silence is beautiful. We love silence because that means you're not talking about us. Because whenever you're talking about O lineman, it's usually because you're giving up a sack or you're looking bad out there trying to protect your quarterback. And I know a lot of people off the year that Broderick had last year were really looking at 77. And I thought he stepped up in a big way this entire preseason.
No, I agree with you there because no, we haven't seen him at that position, so a lot of eyes was on that position, which is rightfully so. But
Mhm.
again, he's going to have to continue to answer those questions. But up until this point, we've seen, and the organization is very comfortable as it relates to where Broderick Jones is at. Troy, on the other hand, they want him to really just pick back up, but again, he is a red shirt rookie again because he didn't play minimal snaps last year, but yet he was coming off of that knee injury. More of that was going to be mental. It looks like he has rebounded from that. So to your point on the 2 tackles, there's not a lot of questions that we have coming out of the preseason that would may force this organization to say we have to now look to see what other tackles are out there that they may potentially have to trade for to now secure those spots. I think they answered those questions, and I think
Yeah.
they are comfortable with where they are. But to your point on where first years guys has to really take up and take the next step going into that second year, this offensive line, even though we're talking about the tackles, is going to be Zach Frazier. They're going to
Mhm.
move with him, and everything that I've seen up until this point, Zach looks like he's going to be the guy for the next 10 years based off the things that he's bringing to this offensive line. So I'm excited by watching a young Zach Frazier.
Yeah, he definitely has that pedigree, and especially is well documented what the lineage of centers for the Steelers looks like, and he looks like he's ready to step up and fill those big shoes. But yeah, to your point, there were a lot of questions about the tackles, but I think we left the preseason with a question about guard, specifically left guard. I know Isaac Siamalu has not played the entire preseason, and Spencer Anderson came in, and I thought he showed out really well. Not a lot has been talked about. Number 74 came in, uh, filled in for Isaac. Not many people knew the extent of Isaac injury, but has obviously kept him out this entire preseason. So the coaches felt that it was pertinent enough to keep him out. But in that, Spencer got those reps. We also brought in Andres Pete, who has Pro Bowl experience at left guard and played well in the preseason. And another thing, I mentioned Ryan McCullum. Ryan McCullum hadn't played the entire preseason, but came in and had a fantastic game against the Carolina Panthers. And it moved Max Sharping to right guard. And so Max Sharping was playing center the entire preseason and had a good preseason. And so to see that he has position flexibility at the guard position was good to see. Coaches had some tough decisions to be made. I think we got some quality. We were concerned about the tackles. Problem solved. I think we are now happy with where they are. We were concerned about the depth. I think that problem's been solved too. We brought in Andres Pete and Dylan Cook, who I did not mention before, also had a really good preseason. He was the only tackle to play both sides in the preseason. That's still on the team right now. We had Gareth Warren, who got released this past Saturday, who got some of that action too. And so the coaches had some decisions to make. Stephen Jones is another guy who shows some position flexibility. So there's 10 guys in there that I think could make a case to make the squad. But usually the teams usually only keep like 8 or 9 offensive linemen. So that number game is going to be interesting as things play out.
It is, and again, do they keep 8? Do they go with 9? But whoever doesn't make it will ultimately end up on the practice squad. So I don't think they have to look on other people's roster because they have everything. They're assuming that those other guys don't get the opportunity to be on the active roster of on other teams. So that would ultimately figure out what happens from that perspective. But again, it goes back to now when you talked about Isaac, this is a guy now. It looks like he's back. I don't know, if he was truly dealing with an injury, maybe Tomlin just gave him rest as he's getting closer to the week one opener. But ultimately, these 2 weeks are critical. And I say that only because, and if you want your run game to be where you expect it to be, these guys are going to have to all practice together. Communications, understanding the double team, when to actually leave off the double team, moving up to the next level. You know that key more than anything, Trey. But again,
Mhm.
these guys have to practice together. And up until this point, your starting five that you have right now hasn't practiced together consistently. And that's going to be critical over the next 2 weeks in order to get those guys prepared for the Jets.
You're right. And you alluded to earlier a couple of weeks ago about how this team's at least have the pieces that look like the 2005 team. The 2005 Steelers team that won the Super Bowl. And coming up after this break, we have a guest that knows a thing or two about that Super Bowl team. Coach Bill Cowher will be coming to us on the snap count after this break.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Garage Beer. No bitterness, no frills, no IPA, just beer-flavored beer. Find local retailers who sell garage beer near you by visiting drinkgaragebeer.com.
Welcome back, everybody, to the snap count. And as you can see, we have our very first special guest, Hall of Fame coach Bill Cowher. Welcome to the snap count, coach.
It's good to be there, Trey. My offensive lineman, my backup quarterback. I tell you what, you guys were an integral part of some successful teams that we had back then.
Yeah, we were definitely blessed to be part of some great players, some great coaches, and a great team in 2005. But first things first, I want to ask. I don't think a lot of the fans out there quite understand the coach's perspective on cut day. Right now, the Steelers have to get to 53 by 4 o'clock tomorrow. A lot of lives are going to be affected, and I know as a head coach, you don't take these type of decisions lightly. What was it like leading into cut day for you?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing, Trey, that you want to do is just make sure that your football team has got depth. I think the biggest thing for me was making sure that we had positions where we were solid, and the players that we had like, kind of accepted the role that they were. I always say it's not the best 53; it's the ones that fit this particular team at this particular time. And sometimes, injuries will have a lot to do with that initial makeup, but then you put together the practice squad, and you kind of let the team take over. So I think right now it's making sure that is there any positions of question that you may have going in? Was it what was once a strength is maybe a little bit of a question mark in your mind, and one was a question mark, and you feel pretty good about the group that you have. So I think a lot of those questions you still have. I know there's only 3 preseason games, and a lot of these guys don't play, and that's why the backups are playing to kind of get a feel for what the depth is like for your particular team.
And I know when you get to this point, and a lot of people talk about practice squad and those type of things, and people just assume that the players who don't make the squad will eventually just be put on the practice squad. How much time does it take for you now scouring other people's roster, the waiver wires, to now make up your practice squad?
I think it's very important. I think that's the group of guys that are going to come with you, and when they're with you, they're learning your system. Because the biggest thing when you have injuries, and particularly if you have more than one injury at a position, be able to insert someone who understands your system that doesn't give you a big drop off or limit what you can do just because of the fact there's no experience or understanding of what you're trying to do. So I think the biggest thing that you have to have is a group of guys that can, in a very short period of time, and that's why I think some of these veterans that are out there, getting them on your practice squad, they may not need the reps, but you may need them to be able to play and step in for you in a very important part of the season. And so that's why getting people that can understand your system, that have maybe been there before, if they've got a veteran, some kind of experience about them, allows you to feel better about the depth you have. Because ultimately, when you talk about right now in the National Football League, I mean, it's 18 weeks, it's 17 games. So you got to start counting snap counts. And some of the things you need to do right now is making sure that you don't overplay a person early because you want them to be at their best in December and January. So I think right now, counting snap counts and getting a good rotation of people, particularly early in the season, they got experience. You're taking away the stars, maybe getting wore down too much because you want to have your best football team ready to be playing its best football in December and January.
So as we look at the Steelers specifically, they got to get to 53 by tomorrow, but they look like they're trying to form a philosophy. Specifically, Arthur Smith. His resume includes his time in Tennessee when he ran the ball down everybody's throat with Derrick Henry. He looks to be trying to do some of the same things. And Charlie mentioned earlier in one of our shows that this team reminds him of the 2005 Steelers with what they want to do, is at least offensively, and what their philosophy is defensively. What say you, Coach? Do you see some similarity between this 2005 and the way that Arthur Smith, Coach Tomlin want to approach the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think I go back to the 2005 team. You remember Bendis is coming off his rookie year, so he's now in his second year. He's comfortable, right? I mean, he's able to understand the system, but at the same time, we were kind of built when came in, stepped in to be a team that ran the football. But we let him grow as the season went along. And I see some of the things that Charlie's talking about. Now, the one thing that we had at that point was a pretty established offensive line. And Trey, you were part of that because you were backing up at the time Marvell Smith. And so it was an experienced offensive line. And we kind of were built around that, whether it's be run the football, play action, and certainly the comfort that Ben had. And he also had the ability to get out of some sticky spots if he needed to. But we were talking about, we wanted to be able to be a team that was going to be able to run the football. We threw early to run late, but we could finish and close games. This football team, the only thing I've seen, and Trey, you've watched these guys probably more than I have in this preseason, it's the offensive line. And this is a young offensive line. I think the more they can stay together, as you know, continuity is a huge part. No other position in the offensive line, in my opinion. Those guys are talking to one another every day. You're in that same room every day. You're having to make adjustments in the course of a game. I mean, whatever the kind of stunts are taking place, you have to be in sync with what you're doing. It starts with the center. I think they've got a great center, 2 young tackles right now.
Right.
And I think that's going to be a big key is how can they mature? And I think if Arthur can run the football early, use those tight ends, use the play action, let Aaron grow into this offense. Because Aaron, I think he gets in a rapport with DK and Roman and Calvin, whatever he needs to do and develop the tight ends. Jonnu Smith can do a lot of things from a matchup standpoint. There's a lot of possibilities on that offensive side of the ball They have not played together in a games-like situation right now. So let them grow into this offense. And the best way to grow into this offense is having a nice run-oriented offensive line and run the football with Arthur. Let that defense take care of the early part of the season, and maybe the offense can help them later on.
Which kind of leads me, I'm sorry, CB, let me,
no, go
ahead. Kind of leads me into my next question I wanted to ask. Does that philosophy, with the way that the NFL has evolved, with everybody concentrating on 5 wides and spreading the field out, does that style of ball still work? The 2005 ground and pound, play action, win with your defense, does that still work in today's NFL? I know last year we kind of saw with Philly and Saquon Barkley having the top 2 rushing offense. Does that still work?
Well, I think I'll say this is I think if you look at how many teams have kept a fullback on their football team this year as opposed to last year, half the league right now has got a fullback on their team. Last year, I think it was a third of the league. So I'm just saying to you that right now, when you look at what Philly does, and we're in a copycat league, you look at how long the season is, it's not sustainable to be able to put your quarterback in a position where he's have to make plays and throwing the ball 30 to 40 times a game because he's going to take some hits in doing so. So having a degree of balance in what you're doing, having a degree of taking that pressure. And sometimes when you run the football, when you're able to run the football, you're limited to snaps in a game. And a limited amount of snaps in a game reduces the risk of injury to your football team because health has a large part to do at the end of the season with the teams that continue to move on. So I go back to the same thing. The game is cyclical. You know, whether you're doing what we did back in 2005 and even in 1995 when we went to the Super Bowl with Neil O'Donnell and Cordell Stewart was playing receiver, we were playing 5 wides. We were doing some things back in that time. But the bottom line is we also had balance with what we did. We had a run mentality, but we also were creative with some of the stuff we did. So I wanted teams to get ready to know that we're going to smack you around a little bit, but we're going to open this thing up early. I said we used to throw early to run late. We got to score some points too. Running the ball doesn't always necessarily mean you're going to score a lot of points, but we could close games. And that's the one thing I want us to be able to do. If we get a lead, we're going to milk the clock. We're not going to beat ourselves, and we're going to impose ourselves on you in the fourth quarter of a football game.
See, and I'm glad he said that. I take that all those points right there leads me that direction to say this reminds me of that 2005 season. But talking about that as we kind of switch gears, 20 years ago, it's a season that we put together. It was a magical season. Talk about some of those things that you remember as we now approach 20 years.
Well, I'll put it into a kind of a Cliff Notes version, Charlie. You know, I got to go back. You got to go kind of back when we came off of a 2004 season where we were 15-1. We're losing a championship game with our young rookie quarterback who wins his first 15 games. And we go into this next season as kind of, you know, the team is supposed to go to the Super Bowl. Everybody's coming back. They're a year older. They're going to be a year more experienced. And nothing's changed. Nothing. You look at our team, and we got the same guys. If not, we're better. You know, we get Trai comes in the third round. So we had, and you know, we had a very solid offensive line. It was a veteran team with we had the insertion of some youth at the right positions, and we get off to that season, and we're 7-2. Everything's falling in place, and we lose 3 straight games. Now, I remember after losing those 3 straight games, and I think the last one might have been to Cincinnati, and we had TJ Houshmandzadeh wiping his shoes with a towel. Yep. And I remember coming in, and I took all the goals off the board, and I just said, you know what? I'm tired of talking about this season where it's at. You know, right now we're in a 1-game season. So the next game we had was the Chicago Bears. And that's the only thing we're worried about is Chicago Bears. Then it was going to be the Minnesota Vikings. Then it was the Cleveland Browns. Then it was the Detroit Lions. But as we went through that phase of going down that line, it was us all of a sudden coming together and just having a sense of urgency in how we prepared, a sense of urgency how we approached every game, and a sense that, you know what, no, don't worry about where you just did. Don't reflect. The only thing you ponder is the next game. Stay in the now. And so we entered the playoffs that year as a 6th seed. And then all of a sudden they say no 6 seeds ever gone to a championship game, let alone go into a Super Bowl. And I remember I told you a story about Christopher Columbus. Yep. And I remember telling you about that, about the fact that he was going to set forth and try to discover America. And the fact is that they said, don't do it. It's going to be a death trip. But he said, no, I believe, surround himself with what people that believed in him. And they discovered America. And the point was, don't let history dictate your future, but let your future make history. Do something they say you can't do. And so we kind of took that theme, if you remember, doing that each week. Okay, no 6C can go here. So we went to, it was kind of a redemption tour. We went to Cincinnati. Oh, yeah, wipe your shoes. Oh, yeah, we'll talk about that. We beat them. Then we go to Indianapolis. We were embarrassed on a Monday night football game in front of everybody. We got shut out and we got embarrassed. And we won that. Hey, let's just go on the road and go to Denver, best team of football. We're just this little team from Pittsburgh that no one thinks should even be here. We're not going to win this game. We're lucky to even get here. And we won that. And they said we're going to be the home team in the Super Bowl. And I said, no, we're an away team. So we wear our away jerseys because we don't play at home. We're just warriors. And I said, and we're probably underdogs. I don't know what the point spread was, but we were underdogs that whole year. From the time we won 7-5, I was going to play that card the rest of the way. And it worked out pretty good.
I don't know, man. Coach, can I put this on and go play right now?
Yeah, let's go, man.
Let's go. I'm ready to line up right now after hearing all that.
Hey, I remember this. So you came in, Marvell Smith got hurt in that season. And you as a young rookie had to come in. And I remember saying, Trai, I don't care that you're a rookie. Look around you. It's a bunch of vets. There's a responsibility you have right now. You're a Steeler right now. And you've been playing this league. You went through training camp. You're not a rookie. You're a first-year player and just play like it, just like you were Northwestern. Nothing's changed. You got some good people around you. Just lean on Faneca. He's not too bad.
Oh, he's not too bad of a player at all. Yeah, blocking next to 66. I knew I had to show up or go sit my butt on the sideline for sure.
Well, hey, but as you
go ahead.
I was going to say, as you ran off, that win streak that we went on, I thought one of the keys that doesn't get talked about much was going into that final game of the season. We were playing against Detroit, and that Saturday night, we were all kind of circled around the TV because there was a different plan that you were going to have. If San Diego was to win that game against the Chiefs, there was a chance that some of the starters may not necessarily play the entire game. And that was the game that Drew Brees hurt his shoulder, ended up losing the game, and it forced us to have to go out there and beat Detroit during that week. But again, as we were kind of watching it, people were scoreboard watching because if certain teams won, that would have put us into the playoffs. But in Detroit's favor, they played us all the way into the fourth quarter. That forced this team to play. And I thought that was a critical point of the season that really kept the momentum going. Do you agree, or what do you see during that time?
Yeah, I do. And I think the biggest thing is it would have affected how we approach the game, certainly because we didn't have a bye. So, and I always talked about the health of people going into it. That's why a lot of times when we had things locked up in the last week of the season, where it's week 16, 17, and now it's 18, you earn a right to be able to rest people. So I was okay with that. I knew that there was a different mentality in the playoffs. You approach it differently. You feel it separate. You sense of urgency. There's a suddenness to how you have to play because it could be over tomorrow. I understood that, and it could affect that. And then it was almost good that we have to kept playing because I feel like we're in a 1 week season from week 12 on. Like I said, from Chicago on, I felt like we were in a must win every week. And if we lost, we were eliminated. So there was finality in everything that we did and how we thought about things and how we approached every game. But also there was a confidence that kept building. I think when you start to think like that and you have success like that, no matter how you want to just acclimate to things, you find out that it's a great mindset because there's a kind of a freedom that you have knowing that, we can't lose tomorrow, but, we've been in this mindset and everyone else is in the same mindset with you. So let it go. There's no tomorrow. Don't worry about holding back anything. Just play your best, play loose, play confident because, the guy next to you, he's got your back.
Amen, Coach. Well, we want to say thank you for your time, but I cannot let you get out of here without giving us your future picks on what's going to happen with the Steelers this year. I know we have a lot of faith that Arthur Smith can get this run game going, but where do you see the Steelers in the pecking order of the AFC North and in the AFC as a whole?
Well, I think getting off to a good start is going to be very, very important. I do think there's going to be this team's going to grow as the season gets older, just because of the new faces that they have, really on both sides of the ball.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think Thornhill coming in the secondary and Chucky Clark being there along with Deshaun Elliott. Those are the safeties have a lot to do with it. I think there's better depth right now, and particularly experience-wise, it's the corners. I think again, when you look up front, you know, if you get your number one pick back, that's going to be used. But I think there's depth on the defensive line. We saw Nick Herbig, what he's given now, Highsmith and TJ. So, and I think inside Queen, and I think, you know, Peyton Wilson had a great first rookie year. He'll be better in the second year. So I think if you look at this roster, it's got better depth and more experience than it did a year ago. And so I think where they got to a year ago was important. But I do understand this division has not got easier. I mean, the Baltimore Ravens, I think, are still the most talented team, I believe, in the AFC. I think we see what Cincinnati can do, particularly on that offense when they stay together. Big questions there is on the defensive side of the ball. And then you still have the Buffalo Bills. You have and the Kansas City Chiefs. You say what you want. With Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, and Steve Spagnuolo, they're still going to be a team to beat in the AFC. And look out for the Denver Broncos, because they have gotten very, very good very quickly with a good young quarterback. So if Aaron can stay healthy,
that's
if they can create, I think if they can create that identity, and I think Arthur Smith will be able to do it, and I think Aaron will buy into that, is just continue to grow. And I think this team will be better at the end of the season than they are at the beginning of the season on both sides of the ball. So I just think it's just, you know, getting off to a good start, reinforce what that mentality is about being in Pittsburgh. We all know it's still going to come down to it's getting to the postseason and having postseason success. But at the same time, you can't get to the postseason until you take care of business in September, October, November, and December. And I think this team will get better. A lot will have to do on offense with the offensive line, Arthur being patient, and all of a sudden Aaron creating that connection with this offensive group of elite receivers and skill players. And defensively, I think, again, staying healthy on the defensive side of the ball, and I love where they are in the secondary. And, you know, let's just see what happens. But, you know, it'll be a great start with the Jets, ironically enough, going against Justin Fields, and Aaron going back against his team, Justin against his team. You couldn't have a better start to this season.
All right, real quick. Will the Steelers win their first playoff game? Is this the best shot the Steelers have to win their first playoff game since 2016?
I think right now this is the best team they've had, I mean, personnel-wise. And I think, again, those things have to stay together. There's a lot of continuity has to be created. And that only comes when, like, an offensive line can stay together all of a sudden through 9, 10, 11, 12 games. You look at the top teams last year, and you'll see a very common theme. Their offensive line stayed healthy. Because the offensive line stays healthy, then all of a sudden that continuity is created. Aaron gets comfortable. All of a sudden, he has more games and games with this group of receivers and with tight ends. And all of a sudden, Arthur gets a feel of this running game and the depth that they could have right there. That can take some pressure off of that defense. You keep that defense fresh, they can get after you and they can cover you. So I think the biggest thing is for that offense to create a sense of being able to have ball possession. You can keep that defense fresh. And I would rotate a lot of the things you have right now is keeping that defense fresh, even if it's not through snaps or the offense, even through a rotation process, because it's a long year, and having these guys very, very much healthy, and that critical month of November and December when you have to make that run is going to be a big part of their success.
All right, Coach. Well, we appreciate your time being the first official guest on the Snap Count. Thank you for coming through and sharing your thoughts.
I'll see you guys on week 9 because I think we're going to celebrate the 2005 team and alumni week then. And I'm actually going to fly in the night before. I have to go to Buffalo that next day. But I'm going to make sure I come for that night to make sure I spend some time with that team, because that was a very, very special team. And I said this before, that wasn't our most talented team, but that was our closest team.
Yes.
And like I said, there was a great mix we had. And Charlie, you know that because you were there before. It was a great mix of veteran leadership infused with some youthfulness, and there was just a great continuity and great leadership and great sense of perspective that we got from our players. And so it was a fun run, a special team, and I can't wait to spend a special evening with you guys, reminiscing, going down through all the stories.
Can't wait.
Appreciate you, Coach. We look forward to seeing you here soon.
All right, we'll be right back after this. See you, Coach.
See you, Charlie.
The Big Play Sports Network is brought to you by Lake Spur Marketing, connecting your brand to the right customers. Visit lakespurmarketing.com today.
Man, wasn't it awesome to talk to our coach like that? I mean,
Always
Coach,
good to see him for sure.
always great to see Coach Cowher, the Hall of Fame Coach Cowher. And I mentioned Hall of Fame because this man knows what he's talking about. And he made a point of emphasis to mention how crucial the line play is this year. And so, once again, I'm to you with the trench report. All right.
Let's
and here are
do
the
it.
grades from this last game. Now, I did a cumulative grade as well, but this is the singular grade from preseason week 3 versus the Carolina Panthers. Once again, our bookends did a fantastic job. Broderick and Troy, a lot of questions going into them, we mentioned, coming into the camp, and they ended it on a great note. 3 good preseason games. I don't think Troy gave up a pressure, and I think Broderick made it only giving up 1 or 2, 0 sacks between the two of them. Zach had a holding call on the very first play of the game, or else he would have had 100%. It was a very weak holding call, I would say, but I think these refs are in the preseason too, Charlie, so they got to throw the flags when they can. Spencer and Mason both played. I thought Mason played outstanding. He has been extremely solid. I know he was a guy that you mentioned coming into this year you had your eye on as far as what kind of improvements he would make in the second year, being a 6th-round guy that got kind of shoved in there last year when Daniels went down. I thought he's rebounded amazingly, and they're really getting their money's worth with this 6th-round draft pick and Mason McCormick. But when we look at the depth, this is where the questions lie. I think our 5 are solid right there. Don't know what's going to happen with Spencer. He's obviously going to be the rotational guard when Isaac comes back, and so he'll be your 6th man interior wise. But I don't know. When we look at Max Sharping and Andres Speed, 2 guys who had really good camps as well. Andres just coming here 2 weeks ago, I believe. And the last 2 games, he put some stuff on film that has to get the coaches excited. And obviously, with his resume being the all-pro guard for the Saints and playing some tackle, that's valuable in that locker room on an offensive line that lacks a lot of veteran presence. Max Sharping has some starting time in the league. One of the guys that I wanted to bring up was Ryan McCullum. He had 100%, played the entire game after Zach went out. Hadn't played the entire preseason up to this point, but really balled out in this game. He needed to because Max Sharping had been playing center and had done a good job. So it's going to be interesting how these numbers work out after cut day today. If they're going to keep 10, Stephen Jones, I thought is probably the most athletic of this group, but probably the least consistent of the group. Dylan Cook is the only guy that played both tackles, so it looks like he has an inside track to be our swing tackle. So we got some decisions to make in the offensive line room, but by and large, this group as a whole did well and improved each week.
And I think the biggest part that Mike Tomlin is going to have to focus on either what's the more important, tackle to guard flexibility or guard to center flexibility. So I think that ultimately is going to shape up how people make this roster.
And you wonder last year, Zach got hurt and Ryan had to come in and filled in tremendously, but you wonder if that's going to play into his decision-making as well. Will he keep 3 guys that have center experience in Ryan McCullum and Max Sharping? That could mess with your numbers a little bit as well. And like you mentioned, what's going to be more important, that guard to tackle flexibility or that tackle to tackle flexibility? So a lot of stuff to be hashed out between now and 4 o'clock tomorrow, but they got some good decisions to make because those guys really play well this preseason. A few other intriguing storylines happening around the league, some lingering storylines. The main one being the situation down in Dallas, Charlie. It doesn't look like Mike is happy, and it doesn't look like Jerry is in any way, shape, or form going to bow out of this game of chicken with Micah. He looked like he's here for the fight, and it doesn't look like it's going to be a pretty situation in Dallas as far as getting their star player on the field. What do you think is going to happen? Will he be ready for week 1, or you think he's going to take this into the season? This will be a totally unique situation. Kind of reminds me of the Le'Veon Bell thing.
Yeah, he's going to be ready for the season. It's just a matter of whether the contract is done or not. It kind of reminds me of Joey Bosa when he was going through his. I think it was like 2 or 3 days before the deal got done. He was ready to play in that week 1. This is going to be very similar. But when you talk about Jerry Jones and how he's approaching this thing, it seems to me like he's more enamored with winning in negotiation than
Right.
he is with helping this team. It's like, this is my way and I'm sticking with it. You're going to negotiate with me. So at the end of the day, this is a guy that with Jerry Jones is going to negotiate. Any player who's threatens to sit out, most owners know that players aren't willing to do that because of the short shelf life that players have. And is he going to miss that money in that one game check? Chances are probably going to be not. So I think Micah stays, and I think the deal does get done. I think it's going to come on the eve of the start of the week 1's game.
So you think Micah's going to end up bending the knee, so to speak? My best Game of Thrones reference right there. If he's dead set on getting this contract, and this is a totally unique situation because I can't think of one quite like this other than maybe Le'Veon, who was willing to sit out the whole season. But Micah being the type of player he is and his importance to the team, do you think it would be in his best interest to see how far Jerry Jones is willing to take this and be willing to sit out the season?
Yeah, I think all options are on the table at this particular point. Now, the stance is going to come with the NFLPA. How do you now, when you have a player who has representation, but yet the owner does not want to negotiate with that guy? So I think maybe the conversations start to happen between the PA, Roger Goodell, and then ultimately, bringing Jerry into this to say this guy has representation. He wants you to negotiate with him. So I think these things are all working behind the scenes. But again, this week here, as we prepare and head into Labor Day, I don't think you see much done. Now the conversation is going to happen the closer that we get to opening day. And that's where I think things will start to materialize come next Wednesday and Thursday.
And as we move to the West Coast, how odd is this Matthew Stafford situation? He hasn't really practiced at all. We are hearing bits and pieces about his, his ailments out in LA. Are you hearing anything? Are you seeing anything that makes you think that maybe there might be a question about him going into the season this year?
Well, the only thing I'm hearing is, what we're reading and reports that are out there is it related to his back. And, there have been many injuries that we've had throughout. And the back injury, I always say, I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
Anybody.
I had one of those things, way back in 1998. I had a back injury, and that's still lingering to this day. But again, you just don't know. Any muscle spasm that happens, your whole back locks up. And that is just the injury that I just would not wish on anybody. So I think this is going to be something as Matthew is going through. You want to see, it's one thing to throw the football, but what is it going to look like if he has to go to the ground, push himself off the ground, and then now go to the next play? Only that he's going to be able to answer that. But again, that's not going to happen and be able to be answered until the games are being played. So this is going to be something that I'm paying attention to for sure.
Yeah. Well, good thing they got a long break before this first NFL game kicks off. But we'll be back after this next break. Big Play Bets are brought to you by FanDuel. On August 26th, it's FanDuel Football Futures Friday, a new holiday for football fans. It's 24 hours of deals on all your football season's predictions. So take a flyer on the MVP race, crown your champion in August, or parlay your division winner dark horses. Mark your calendars. This is your day for your hunches, your hot takes, your calls, and your odds. Visit the FanDuel app today and start planning your future bets now because Futures Day only lasts one day. FanDuel, play your game. Disclaimer, must be 21 or older and present in select states. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. All right, CB. Every year, there are teams that didn't make it to the playoffs, didn't make it to the big dance the year before, that end up making it this year. Who are your surprise teams that will make the playoffs this year? Pick two.
I think as I look at this, I'm looking out west and I'm going to NFC. I think the Seahawks are going to surprise a lot of people. I think Sam Darnold, the way he played in Minnesota, now taking that Seattle, I think he's going to have that offense going, and I think they're going to sneak up on people. So that's my NFC team. But AFC, this is a crapshoot all the way through. I just don't know. I'm not confident with any of the other AFC teams that I think that will kind of sneak in outside of the 7 that you already had that made it last year.
Oh, really? So you're saying the same 7 that made the playoffs last year are going to make the playoffs this year?
I
That's what
believe
you
that.
think on the AFC side anyway.
On the AFC side, obviously the seedings will be different. I just don't see it right now when I'm looking at this list right now.
All right, when I'm looking at the NFC, and actually I like these odds for the Panthers plus 260. I really like the way Bryce Young ended the year last year. That team looks like it's headed in the right direction. Offensive line down there had a really good year last year, and so I expect that run game and protection for Bryce to pick up. So if I had to pick a team, and it's also because the NFC South seems to fluctuate every single year. The Bucs have looked like the best team the last 2 years, but it seems like a division that's there for the taking. They don't have a clear front runner. So I like the Panthers to perhaps challenge to win a division. And then if there's anybody out of the AFC that I think will make it, like you said, there's not a lot of good choices. The weakest division is the AFC South out in Houston, but even still, I think Houston's going to be improved.
It's tough. It's tough. I think the only other team that I could think that will now be knocking on the door in December, middle December, will be the Bengals.
Yeah,
that's the one team that I think that could potentially be one of those teams.
And that AFC North might have 3 teams. That might be the case, because other than that, I don't think anybody else in the AFC South is really challenging. Titans have a rookie quarterback. Jacksonville is Jacksonville, and the Colts have Daniel Jones and A-Rich to choose from. So, yeah, I'm with you. All right, as we go on down, let's go the opposite way.
Okay.
Which teams that made the playoffs last year will not make it this year? Let's start with the NFC.
I think when I look at this, I'm thinking the Commanders. I think where all the hype that they had, I think they're just too young, and I think they're going to start buying into the hype and believing what the headlines are saying. And I think they drop a game or two as the season goes on, and I just think that's where the Cowboys could potentially be right there on their heels as it relates to potentially making the playoffs.
AFC. I mean, if you said that you think the same 7 will make it, then I guess it's really hard.
Yeah. I think only team that I would say could potentially would be the Chargers, and I think that's ultimately going to be the health of Herbert.
Yeah, because
the health of Herbert. If he stays healthy, then I think they'll make the playoff. But for whatever reason, if he misses any time, I think that's where they struggle.
Chargers did lose their left tackle, Rashawn Slater. Go UNU, Northwestern grad right there. Unfortunately, lost him to a knee injury, so he won't have his main protector. So I can see why you would pick the Chargers. I'm going to go with the Broncos. I think they barely got in last year. And it's not because I don't think they'll be improved. I just think if I'm going down the playoffs, there are going to be 3 teams out of AFC North. I think the Bengals are the team that takes the Broncos out. They're the extra team that replaces the 17th. And on the NFC side, if I'm going with the Panthers to win the division, maybe to be the surprise team, I got to go with the Bucs, maybe missing. And so I don't think the NFC South is going to get more than 1 representative in the playoffs, but we'll see. We shall see. Put your money down. Obviously, Charlie is going to win you the most. So get his picks. He knows what he's talking about. Let's do it. We'll be back after this commercial break. CB, us at the Snap Count, I would like to think of us as a generous bunch, right? We like to give. We have big hearts. And so after we announced that we were giving a TJ Watt jersey, we had announced we are giving away a Madden 26 game, all right, on PlayStation or Xbox. We had lots of entries. We asked the fans to answer this one question for us. Which Steeler is bound to have the breakout year this year? And we had a winner. His name is Mark, and he comes to us via Australia. The one thing about this fan base, CB, that I love and I know you love, we're just not in Pittsburgh. We're international, baby. And
all over the world.
All over the world. And this is no exception. Our first winner comes from Australia, and his name is Mark, and he has his own take on who he thinks will be the breakout winner this year.
G'day, Steeler Nation. My name's Mark from Steelers Nation, Australia. And the question is, who will be the breakout star in 2025 for our Pittsburgh Steelers? My first answer is I have to go with Peyton Wilson. Inside linebacker, I believe he's going to be a standout. He had some good comments from Patrick Queen saying he's going to take it to the next level. I'm really looking forward to him playing football in the black and gold. In the first year rookie, he was running around doing some things here and there, but I think he takes a massive step up in terms of coverage, in terms of pass deflections, in terms of his speed on the field. He's gotten bigger, he's more jacked up, and I reckon he's going to get some sacks and some blitzes, and I think he's going to be absolute fire in 2025. So make sure you guys check out the Snap Count with Charlie Batch and Trai, Essex. Thank you very much. All the best from Steelers Nation Australia. Look out for Peyton Wilson in year 2.
My man did it right, didn't he?
He did. Yes,
he broke it down. Even gave it a little bit of a shout out at the end. I love it.
Absolutely. So for people out there watching it, these giveaways are real. And if you want to follow up, you can follow up with Mark. I'm sure via email is a lot better, being that he's in Australia. But again, man, big props on these giveaways.
Yeah, let's talk about his choice and Peyton Wilson, somebody that we've talked about on this show as well. I think 41 is bound to have a huge year. I'm in agreement with Mark. I think him and Patrick Queen on the inside, we've been trying to find that right combo ever since Ryan Shazier, who we thought was going to be the next, had his unfortunate injury. We've had some good linebackers, but we've missed on a couple. Devin Bush isn't here anymore because of that. And so I think we finally found our duo inside that kind of gives us that James Ferrier, Larry Foote type of duo. What do you think?
Yeah, he's playing with a lot more confidence right now. I had the opportunity to talk to him, and he said that the game is slowing down for him, and that's what you want to see from year 1 to year 2. He had a great opportunity in that first preseason game against Jacksonville to wear the green dot, so he essentially ran the entire defense. So that experience right there is putting the coaching staff at ease to let them know they truly have a 3-down linebacker in Peyton Wilson, and I'm excited to watch this young guy because he can flat out play.
Looking forward to seeing number 41 play. He's going to have a big year for us. But, Mark, thank you for your entry. And the rest of Steeler Nation, there's going to be more of that. Tune in. Follow us on the Snap Count Show on Twitter. Follow us on Big Play Pittsburgh on Instagram and YouTube. We're going to have a lot more giveaways. We're going to have a lot more great guests. Thank you again, Coach Cowher, for coming through and gracing us with your presence. Things are going good. We're heading in the right direction, and I can't wait for week 1, Charlie.
I'm looking forward to it. Let's do it.
Here we go.